How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So, it's been a little minute since we've been able to discuss this team, and I think that obviously we're all a little concerned, maybe a little disappointed about the way this team has played lately. Lack of hustle, lack of energy, and, it's not something we're generally used to with this Yankee team. Not hustling to first base at times and lackadaisical moments in the outfield. You just don't really expect to see that from guys making a lot of money and also playing for the New York Yankees. I think having some gratitude for donning the pinstripes is something that I think should be prioritized, to be quite honest with you. Maybe these guys aren't meaning to not hustle, but you shouldn't see that on film. Even if Aaron Boone says, I saw DJ LeMahieu hustling, we all saw him not hustling. So I kind of feel as though at this point, making sure that these players understand what they're representing, a city, a brand, a history, I think is important sometimes. But in this episode, we're going to talk about a guy who definitely understands all of those different variables, and his name is Ben Rice. And if you have been following Fireside Yankees for a long time, Ryan and I are big fans of Ben Rice. We've been talking about him for the better part of a year and a half now, trying to give you guys this information. We've been trying to tell you guys we have a special player coming up through the system, a really, really good bat. Look, it's still early. He could have a cold stretch. He probably will at some point. But you're seeing the upside of what this kid can do. 25-year-old kid, he is just excellent when it comes to plate discipline. His power is legitimate. We're going to break down his numbers for you, give you some insight into why he could be the future here at first base. If I'm Anthony Rizzo right now, and my right arm is fractured, and I'm sitting there on the bench cheering Ben Rice on, I hope he understands that his job may not be there when he gets back. Because if you take Ben Rice out of this lineup in favor of Rizzo, you are in favor of losing. And that's kind of my take at this point. Ben Rice has been that good. If he continues to hit like this and you swap him out for Rizzo, what are the Yankees really doing? I know the experience is nice. It's even essential, you could say. But at this point, I don't think Rizzo's got much left in the tank. And I think Rice is this guy's oozing with confidence. And you just love to see stuff like this, Ryan. And how are you feeling about Rice's early impressions, early returns? And what do you think happens when Anthony Rizzo comes back in a couple weeks?
I mean, what else can be said, I think, about what Ben Rice has done so far, right? Because he's been otherworldly, right? He's been so good. He's been incredible. I think, kind of the thing that stands out the most to me early on, and, we have 17 games of sample size. Alex, I think we can agree that's not enough to, crown anybody. I mean, you could argue even 1 year of playing time. Like, baseball's a very volatile sport. But Rice has done a great job of managing kind of being really good at everything, right? He has excellent barrel rates. His quality of contact is through the roof. Expected weight on base average on contact is a damage metric. It measures how much damage you're doing on contact, launch angles, exit velocity, all that stuff. 516 is where Ben Rice is at. The league average is 369. He is well above the league average. And to kind of give you context, because, you think of a guy like, when you think of damage, you think of Aaron Judge, right? Because Aaron Judge he's one of the best power hitters in the game. He's at 606. He's in the highest percentile of that. So, Ben Rice is obviously a step below a guy like Aaron Judge, but he's close to a guy like Giancarlo Stanton, who's at 508. So, I don't think Rice is going to hold up a 516 at that mark. I don't think he's going to hold up Stanton-level damage. But, what's been impressive is that he's doing that while not striking out a lot. He ranks, he has a 19.5% whiff rate. His swing decisions, they're beautiful, right? It's mesmerizing to watch a guy who, not only chases just 16.7% of the time, the league average is 28.4. He's amazing at not chasing, but when he gets a pitch to hit, he swings, and that's huge. We talk about like going through the motions effort. One of the worst at bats I think I've seen in a while was, and I don't mean to call anybody specifically, but I am going to have to reference this at bat. Ninth inning, give up the you give that game tying shot to Yoshida, last strike. It's a backbreaker. Trent Grisham leads off the next inning. Fastball, 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 fastball. Called strike, called strike, called strike. Sit down, back to the dugout. That's one of the laziest at bats I've ever seen, right? Like, get your bat off your hands, have an approach. You've got to go up there looking to do damage, right? Like, your approach at the plate has to be centered around when I have a hitter's count or when I get a pitch to hit, I've got to be able to handle that pitch. That doesn't mean swing out of your shoes. You don't have to be a home run hitter. You don't I don't want to kind of conflate wanting to do damage on a pitch to you have to hit a home run, right? Like that's, or you have to be a power hitter, or you have to run high exit velocities, right? When Luis Ariz sees a pitch down the middle, he doesn't think, oh, let me take this pitch. He thinks, hey, it's a 2-0 count. I got a pitch to hit. Let me get after this pitch to hit. Is he a power hitter? Absolutely not. Does he run high exit velocities? Absolutely not. But he is still looking to hunt the fastball. He's still looking to hunt damage pitches. I think Rice does that so well. And I've just been overall impressed, right? Like it's blown me away how good he's been at the plate. And Alex, not to say that's again not to do some victory laps or anything like that, but we've been patting the table saying this dude can hit, and all he's shown is that he can hit. He can hit at the highest level. He can hang with the big boys. He's got it, right? And I think that performance yesterday, hopefully electrifies the Yankees moving forward. And as you mentioned, there's no chance right now. Like, Rizzo's a great veteran, and I just want to give him credit too, because, it's hard to be on the sidelines watching your team while you're hurt and watching a guy basically take your job. I really appreciate him before Rice even came up, basically saying, yeah, if Rice, not before he came up, before he even played a game, it's like, yeah, I'm here to mentor him. I'll help him, mentor, being a mentor kind of thing. That takes a lot of humility. That takes a lot of just being a really good teammate. And, I think that's important to mention, when we're talking about veteran leadership and all that stuff, because, speaking of veteran leadership, my $50 million third baseman who's a veteran isn't hustling out to first. He isn't getting into a rundown to let a run score. Obviously, Volpe's got to run that out, but, LeMahieu can bail him out by just getting into a rundown there. So it's good to, one of my corner infielders who aren't hitting, they're showing me some veteran leadership. Other guys got to step it up in terms of intensity. LeMahieu, wake up. I need some intensity. I need intensity from that guy. I need to see, it can't be chop ground ball. None of that. Dude, I need some intensity from him too.
I mean, I feel sometimes that this team lacks a lot of intensity across the board. Obviously, this offense leans heavily on Aaron Judge and Juan Soto to carry. Gleyber Torres obviously having a career worst season. Verdugo has been really, really, really cold the last month, and obviously that home run yesterday, which was great. You look at some of the Oswaldo Cabrera is really a net liability offensively, and it's not even really a conversation. Who's been really good though? It's kind of funny, right? So the Yankees leaning on Aaron Judge, leaning on Juan Soto. The two other guys who have been probably the best hitters aside from those two, they're both rookies, Ben Rice and Austin Wells. I think we have to dedicate a whole episode to Austin Wells, because this dude has not only gotten astronomically better offensively as the season has progressed, but he ranks in the top half of the league in defensive measurements as well. Catcher framing runs, strike rate. He's excellent. Absolutely excellent. And his offense lately has been, he's taking pitches, he's working walks, he's hitting home runs, he's getting on base. Like, the dude is just hitting really well. And you love to see it from your lefties too, right? Because majority of pitchers in the MLB are obviously going to be righties, just based on just math. So when you have these lefty hitters who are just excellent, one of them leading off for you, another one at the bottom of the order, and the thing about I'll say this. The thing that I like about Ben Rice, and you kind of referenced this earlier, right? If you're leading off ahead of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, you're going to get pitches to hit. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get pitches to hit because you don't want to put a guy on base before you have to face Juan Soto, and you certainly don't want to put Juan Soto on base before you have to face Aaron Judge. And eventually, you're going to get Stanton back, and we all have our qualms with Stanton, but the truth is like, you kind of look at his stats this year, and the home runs are obviously very, very efficient, and that's really what makes him a dangerous hitter. But regardless, irrespective of that, Ben Rice makes damage contact, right? Like, he attacks pitches in the zone. And the problem with Anthony Volpe, and I love the kid, and I think he's going to have a great future, is that he has not been hitting those pitches in the zone very well lately. He has ebbs and flows. He gets really hot, gets really cold. When he's hitting extra base hits, the guy is just a phenomenal asset. But I like him actually a little bit further down the order because he doesn't have that much pressure. You know what I mean? He doesn't have that much stress. Like, I have to get on base. I have to do this. I have to do that. Now he can just play his game a little bit down the order. I think he's going to benefit a lot from that, just kind of resetting, having a little bit of a clearer mind, knowing that the Yankees just need him to do his thing and not get on base, not play this specific style of game. When it comes to Ben Rice, the Yankees are saying to themselves, anything that hits in the zone, hit the crap out of it, man. Like, that's what you're good at. You're good at hitting the ball hard when it's in the zone. And he does that at an absolutely astonishing rate. So, Ryan, I'll ask you this. Why do you think Ben Rice has been so good leading off? Why do you think that maybe he could be a solution moving forward there? Maybe it's not where the Yankees desperately need him to be, but he's been so good there, and I think it's because pitchers have to throw to him. They have to give him things to hit. Otherwise, you're going to get a guy on base before Soto and Judge hit, and you definitely don't want that. So you have to try to get him out, and they're giving him stuff to hit, and he's hitting the crap out of it.
I mean, that's an excellent point, right? The approach at the plate, right? Like, Rice's approach is the perfect counterbalance to what teams are trying to do. And, I I talked about Luis Rengifo as like he's super aggressive in zone that just kind of like feels like the kind of guy who makes sense to hit in front of Soto and Judge. But I also recognize, the Yankees, they're not like I completely understand not going after a dude who doesn't hit the ball hard, right? Like I can completely understand that because you kind of fear that BABIP regression, right? That regression to the mean, right? And it happening on your team, and suddenly you trade for a guy who's a dud. Rice, I think, profiles so much better there than really any trade acquisition could that I can think of. And then just kind of thinking of like the future of the lineup, right? Like, not talking long term, just like as you mentioned, Stanton, maybe Dominguez, right? Just kind of floating it out there. If they can get a third baseman, you feel good about the lineup, right? I feel like the lineup's one piece away. And I said this on Twitter before yesterday's game, like the lineup feels like it's one piece away. The pitching, that's where I feel like they need to go. All right, we need to get 2 arms to the bullpen, a starter, that kind of thing, right? Like I think they need to focus a lot more on the pitching. And I think reports have really been focused on, the Yankees really want to go after pitching. They really want to go after pitching. And, when we talk about starting pitching, Alex, I remember us talking about various starters in May, and people are like, you want starting pitching? What's wrong with you? This, and that. Right? Like, I couldn't think of a team I couldn't think of a reason not to add a starting pitcher for the Yankees right now. They need starters. They need relievers. Not starters, but a starter. They need relievers. They need bullpen guys. This bullpen, Alex, it's an interesting situation. They've been better as of late, but that blown game is a sour taste in your mouth. And Clay Holmes has to get it going. He has to get back on track because it's been really rough for the last month. And kind of overall looking at this team, right? Like, they're not overly flawed. They're not flawed to, I think people have called them too flawed to fix, and I just disagree. Look at the Orioles rotation. It's Suarez, Irvin, Povich, and Rodriguez. You got Rodriguez, who's like good, and Burns obviously is an ace, but everyone else there, I think they're below average starters. I mean, Povich just gave up like 10 runs to the fucking Athletics. You know what I mean? If that was a Yankee pitcher, we'd be sitting here calling them a bum. So I think they have holes they have to fix. They have 3 starters who are complete duds for them. The Yankees need to find a way to add a starter, add 2 relievers, and then add to their infield. Ben Rice kind of simplifies that equation because when you remove when you can check off first base of the needs, the deadline looks a little more attainable. It looks like you can actually pull something off that can get you to championship contention.
I think the deadline is going to be really interesting, for Brian Cashman, because we have a lot of different needs. You know what I mean? Like, I actually would say first base isn't one I'm looking at right now. I think we have a lot of other things going on. Ryan McMahon from the Rockies, I don't like that. Like, I've actually, at first it seemed like a decent idea. I have fallen off that train pretty hard. And the reason that I'm falling off that train is because he's regressing, like, back to what the mean actually is. A 112 WRC, like, he's hitting 272, right? It's great. 14 homers, 350 OBP. He's a good player. 27.5 strikeout rate, a lefty bat. We're going to have a lot of freaking lefties in this lineup if we go and get a guy like this. But a 112 WRC plus, and you're going to give away how much? A lot. A lot. Not a little, a lot. And you're getting a guy, free agent 2028, so obviously you're getting a ton of control. He's on a 6-year, $70 million deal through 2027, which is, it's nothing crazy. It's pretty cheap. You're going to give up prospects, but this guy has never cracked 100 WRC plus before this season. I would argue, Ryan, and maybe you feel differently, by the end of this season, he'll probably be hovering around 100 WRC plus. I think he will regress to that mean because the average of his career, the last 7 years of his career, that is what it says, that he will not be an average hitter. So, I do think that we're going to see massive regression from a guy like Ryan McMahon. Now, what other options are there at third base? Not much. You're really looking at second base. Am I willing to trade Gleyber Torres for spare parts in the bullpen to go get Luis Rengifo? Absolutely. I am. And the reason I say that is because I don't know what version of Gleyber Torres we're going to get on any given day. Is he going to go through the coldest stretch you've ever seen on earth in the playoffs? Is he going to get better this season? He's going through a groin injury, and I love the guy. I really wished he was going to be great. I wish he was consistent. I wish he was, he's had a couple of seasons where he was good defensively, really good offensively. But every year we're getting different versions of Gleyber Torres, and how do you pay a guy $20 million a year to get a different version of him every single day? You know what I mean? It's like you're going to play Call of Duty, and suddenly MLB The Show comes up. You're like, God damn, this game freaking sucks. Why is it on my television screen? Like that you're trying to play Call of Duty, but your Xbox keeps giving you MLB The Show. Then sometimes it gives you Call of Duty. You know what I mean? It's like, you just don't really know what version of Gleyber you're going to get. And ultimately, I just don't think you can lean on that over the course of a full season. So, at this point in time, I think Gleyber, I mean, his confidence is shot. You can see it in his face. He just got benched a couple of weeks ago for not hustling. The consequences are there. He's been involved in trade targets 1.5 million times before. I do think that right now I'm more than happy to trade Gleyber Torres for spare parts in the bullpen for a team that may want to get an eye on him to see if they want to extend him, even if it's a shorter term deal because of the season he's having, and go get Luis Rengifo. If you get Rengifo and Ben Rice continues performing like this, and you got Judge, and you got Soto, you got Verdugo, who eventually probably heats up a bit, Anthony Volpe hopefully heats up a bit, I think you're in a much better spot. I think your offense is in a spot where you can compete. And then you have Austin Wells, who's been excellent offensively too. Are you willing to do the same thing? Because right now, I don't like Ryan McMahon. I don't want to spend that much on Ryan McMahon. I'd rather replace Gleyber Torres with a guy like Luis Rengifo. And look, I want Gleyber to bounce back and look good, but I just don't know if we can sustain his performance the rest of the way. I don't know if I trust him to turn things back around at this point.
Yeah, I mean, with Gleyber, I just you kind of hoped it would just turn around, and it hasn't, right? Like, it hasn't. And I think we're at the point where, you can't just bank on him because, the underlying metrics aren't good, right? Like, Wells, they were good, and so, you're like, oh, it's creeping back up to league average offensively. But that makes sense because, for the entirety of the season, he's been hitting the ball hard, working walks. It felt like it was inevitability. It doesn't feel that way with Torres. It doesn't feel like the batted ball data is good. It's really bad, actually. It's just not hitting the ball hard. Hard to see a turnaround, and I hate saying that because he had such a good year last year, and it's going to be such a sour note for him to end his Yankee career when, I think he was capable of so much more. And we got the Gleyber Torres we got last year, this year, Alex. I mean, think of how this team can be constructed, right? You could go Rice, Soto, or you could go really Torres, Soto, Judge, Rice, right? You go 1 through 4, and you've got, then you go Stanton behind Rice, and get a little crazier, go Dominguez there, maybe you get a third baseman, maybe it's Rengifo, maybe it's a Matt Chapman, I don't really know. You throw them 7, and you go Volpe 8, and catcher 9. That's gross, Alex. That's disgusting, but it will not be, because I don't think Torres will turn it around, unfortunately, and that sucks to say. It does. I'm not we've been very, I don't know if the word would be, we've been pounding the table that Gleyber could turn around anything, but more so that I think you and I have done a better job of being fair to Gleyber than most Yankee fans. I don't mean to call anybody out specifically. I'm not. But I think most people have kind of always just, oh, he's bad, he sucks. And it's like, well, last year he wasn't bad. He was really good, and it's unfortunate. And then just kind of looking at, you talk about, it's interesting because I don't know how I feel about what Stroman did in Toronto. I felt like it was bad to show up a teammate specifically. But when he's saying, show some intensity, bro, and then you see the play you've gotten after that, right? You're like, I would love to see some intensity for some of these guys. Not saying I would love to see Stroman yell at somebody, right? He's also got to pitch better. Those two things have to be are true. You need to act a little, you have to be able to get your message across a little more cordially and pitch better. Those two things have to go hand in hand. But yeah, I'd like to see a little more intensity for some of these guys. And I think, I don't think the Yankees have played bad because they've been lazy. I just think they were playing bad, and then they had a lazy game, and it just was like, how is this the effort? How is this the follow-up, right? How does this happen? That kind of thing. And, Boone, that reflects on him. I don't think we're Boone haters necessarily. I think you and I, for the most part, we understand it's a team thing. It's not Boone when the team struggles. We understand that. But, starts at the top. And then Judge, right? He's the captain. It starts at the top, right? Whenever you talk about a lazy game, right? How do they respond? They responded with 14 runs. That's a great response. How do they respond tonight, right? If they win tonight, you go, you know what? You responded to that lazy game with a series win. You haven't had that in, it's been a month, basically. That tells me, you know what? This team can get punched in the mouth. This team can lay an egg and get right back up. That kind of thing. Adversity is important, right? It's important to struggle and then get out of the struggles. It's important to struggle in July because you don't want that to happen in October. But if they can't pull themselves out of it, because they didn't in 22, they really didn't. It never felt like there was a moment where you're like, yep, this team can win the World Series. It always felt like, oh yeah, they're good. I think they can beat Cleveland. No, they should beat Cleveland, but they're not going to beat Houston. That's how it felt like that year. 23, they never pulled themselves out of it. 24, can they pull themselves out of it? And for Cashman, he's an aggressive swinger. He deals. He tried to get Ohtani in 23. I know people don't think Cashman's a big swinger, but he is. He tries to get big guys and tries to make big moves, but you've got to hit on these big moves too. He took a big swing at Gallo and it didn't work, unfortunately. He took a big swing at Montas and it didn't work, unfortunately. Benintendi snapped his wrist. That's not on Cashman, but it just happened, right? Efros tore his UCL. Trevino tore his UCL in 23. Like, I need an impact player, whether it's Rengifo, whether however it may be. I agree with you on McMahon. He has an 80-something WRC plus since May 25th. Like, it just feels like, right? Like, it just feels like, as you mentioned, he's going to start playing to the back of his baseball card. But, he is great defensively, and I will give him that. He is a good defender. Maybe the Yankees see there's something that's different from last year that they like. He is swinging and missing a lot less while bearing the ball more, so that's interesting. They need an impact player, Alex. They need an impact player. They need somebody who can step in, pitching-wise, hitting-wise, and they need to perform. This has to be the team, right? Like, I don't know if I'm going to have Soto next year. I don't know who I'm going to have next year. This has to be the team. Has to be.
And I 100% agree, because what are you going to waste another MVP caliber performance from Aaron Judge? You're going to waste Garrett Cole when he comes back, when he bounces back to his usual self. You just can't do it again, man. Like, Cashman, how long are you going to wait? I think he's going to make some big time moves. He's going to leverage his prospects. We're going to see some major improvements at the deadline. Why? Because you put all your chips on the table already. You're gonna take them off when your superstar outfielder's having another MVP season, and Soto is literally right behind him. If it wasn't for Judge, he'd be up there too in terms of leading the pack. So you can't waste time anymore. You go out and get Juan Soto because with no guarantee he'll come back because you're trying to win a championship. You're gonna stop at the 5-yard line. I mean, that we're talking about Pete Carroll calling a pass play when he got Marshawn Lynch in the 1-yard line. What are you doing? You know what I mean? You got to run the ball. Run the ball with Marshawn Lynch, the best running back in football at the time, on the 1-yard line, and punch that thing in for a Super Bowl win. That's where Cashman is right now. This team is going to get better because they go through this kind of regression every single year. We're fortunate it's happening in July and June and not in September and October, right? We still have time to solve these issues. We're going to get Clark Schmidt back. We're going to get Ian Hamilton back. We're going to get Cody Poteet back. We're going to get John Birdie back. This team is going to get reinforcements, not to mention Stanton. So you're going to get these guys back, and suddenly this team's going to look a lot different. A lot of these reserve players are not going to be starting. Cody Poteet, good player, good pitcher. Put him in the bullpen. Clark Schmidt, good player. Put him in the bullpen. Or Luis Hill, swap him out. Put him in the bullpen. I don't know. Whatever the Yankees want to do. They're going to have more than enough talent to win games. That's not going to be the problem. It's going to be staying healthy down the stretch and getting the reinforcements that will just give us that extra boost. If we can get Rengifo and a decent bullpen arm, I feel pretty confident about our chances making a nice run this year. So, Cashman's got to go execute, got to do it. The Padres went out and got Luis Arias. Freaking wish we had him right now, but the truth is like there's still really great options available, and we have to be aggressive. This team has to be aggressive. And Rengifo is really, really cheap until he's a free agent in 2 years. So I feel like this is the chance. Like you said, this is the moment. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to drop your thoughts on Ben Rice and his unbelievable performance. Pat yourself on the back, Ryan. Talk about this for 2 years. Finally seeing the reward of all those breakdowns and clips and moments and thoughts and projections coming to fruition. Really, really nice to see that. But as always, make sure to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.